Now it's time to reach out across the internet to chat to the one and only Ronald Brackles, who has dared to cross a border to visit his parents in Hervey Bay, Queensland. So how's the EV scene in Hervey Bay? Lots of electric cars on the road there?
I've seen one. It's the MG electric SUV. It looked pretty good. And the best thing about it, $45,000, brand new, drive away.
So you've been looking into the cost of owning a EV?
Yeah, I've had a look at that. So, as you know, you don't got to put petrol in them. So the cheaper your grid electricity, the cheaper they are to run. And if you're smart enough to charge them with, say, 50% solar, it gets even cheaper.
Are they free to charge from solar, Ronald? A lot of people claim it's free to charge an EV from solar.
Oh, well, not really, no. In some cases, but most of the time, that electricity you're putting into your car could be sent to the grid for your solar feed-in tariff. So you should count that as an expense because you're missing out on it. Even when you account for that, it's still very cheap. So I've got this graph here, and it shows how much it costs to run a car per kilometre. For a petrol car with $1 a 50 litre petrol, you're looking at 16.7 cents for the average passenger car in Australia on the road at the moment. You're charging a car with half grid electricity, half solar off your roof, 2.7 cents per kilometre. Now, I've based this on me driving a Tesla 3 and an electricity and solar in Sydney, Australia's biggest city.
Wait, I'll stop you there. Have you factored in the speeding fines?
No, I did not factor in the speeding fines.
So you're saving money in petrol?
Also, you'll save money on maintenance. Finn, you've got a couple of electric cars, haven't you?
I'm lucky enough to have two, yes.
How much you spent on maintenance for them so far?
I did actually pay a guy $29 to wash the Tesla last week, but that was the first. I usually wash it myself.
Okay, but you know, we can assume normal cars need to be washed now and then too.
Good point. That would be $0.
$0. How many kilometers?
I think it's about 33,000 we're up to on the Tesla.
Okay, that's pretty good. So even if you paid only $250 per service every 10,000 kilometers, you're looking at $750 for a petrol-powered car here.
Yeah, that's a fairly cheap service.
That's a very cheap service, but that's what my parents paid, who are very cheap people. Using $400 a year, which is roughly what my parents pay, for 14,000 kilometres of driving, the average distance for a passenger car in Australia, and I've allowed $100 per year for servicing of the electric car, just in case it needs some servicing. And on this graph here, you can see the annual cost of running these vehicles. In the first year, you'll save $2,260 with $1.50 petrol. You'll save twice that the next year and so on, till after 10 years, you've saved around $22,600. Now, this will depend on what the price of petrol is in the future. I don't have a crystal ball. This is just based on today's prices.
So, I mean, the other thing that I think you'll find after 10 years in an EV is a petrol or a diesel car after 10 years will degrade. Like the driving experience will degrade. It'll start to get, a lot sloppier to drive. The EVs don't seem to... I know people that have driven a, Tesla Model S made in 2012, so coming up to 10 years old, and they swear it drives as good as new because there's nothing to degrade on an electric motor.
Exactly, nothing wears out. It's just the brake pads need replacing every now and then, and even they hardly ever need doing because of regenerative braking. There are diesel electric trains where the electric motors have operated for decades, heavy use, and then they rewire them after maybe 20, 30 years. It's quite amazing how long they last without problems at all. Of course, at some point, the battery will need to be replaced. But in 10, 15 years' time, I expect they'll be a lot cheaper.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you look at the cost curves.
Yeah, and no one I talk to is worried about the cost of replacing the battery 10 years down the line. This is because the sort of people who buy new cars usually don't keep them for that long. It's the sort of thing I worry about, but I'm not too worried.
So, what's the conclusion, Ronald? So, electric cars save you a substantial amount of money once you've bought them, but they're pretty expensive, aren't they?
Yeah, but you'll save a lot over time. So if you're going to buy a $30,000 car, you could be better off buying a $45,000 or $50,000 electric car and coming out ahead on your fuel savings and maintenance costs.
And I guess the cost of money is pretty low at the moment. If you need
I checked. I can get a car loan for me from my bank for 5%. So if I spent, that'll cover the interest on a $35,000 loan. So if you get an electric car, you can afford to get a car loan for a car that'll cost $35,000 more than the petrol one you're going to buy. And it'll basically, hopefully, come out the same.
Wow. And just to clear it up, there's a lot of generally older gentlemen on the internet claiming that electric cars are no better for the environment. Is that true?
No, that's bullshit. Have you seen... Pour all the petrol you use in a year in a normal petrol car into a swimming pool, and you'll see that all that's going into the atmosphere, some of it into people's lungs. It's not good. With an electric car, you need your lithium, you need copper, you need steel, etc., going into the battery, but that's good for 10 years, 15 years, and then it can be recycled. You can't recycle that there petrol, that crude oil. You have to breed up some dinosaurs, kill them off, get them to rot, turn them into oil. It's a big job.
So, can we safely say electric cars are a good idea?
It's a damn good idea. They work a lot better than the rubber band car I had when I was a kid. So, if you're buying a new car, you might be okay. You might be able to manage with a hybrid. They'll still be worth some money in a few years, but don't buy a petrol car because I don't think they'll be worth anything in the relatively near future. You'll be much better off with an electric.
It is interesting. I'm seeing, it's very common to see, your $100,000 Mercedes and brand new Mercedes and BMWs driving around the streets. What do you think they'll be worth in, by 2026, say?
Okay. If they're working and they move, they'll still be worth something, but you're looking at a lot more depreciation, I think, because assuming smart people are going to want the higher performance of an electric car, so you're not going to be able to sell your petrol car to a rich person for good money because they're going to want high performance, and that means electric. And a poorer person might say, okay, I don't have a lot of money, I'll buy that car, but I'm not going to give you Mercedes-Benz prices for it.
I remember back in the day, you used to have this, I can't remember the name of it now, a Nokia business phone that was...
Yes.
Business people really liked it, and there was a company that started making ones for insanely rich people, and they were gold plated and diamond encrusted, and I'm sure people would buy one of those phones now for the value of the gold and the diamonds, but as a day-to-day phone, I'm sure someone would prefer the cheapest iPhone from the Apple Store that you can buy in 2021 to the most luxury of blinged up Nokia phones that you could buy only 12 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, and if someone wants an old car because they like the styling, they can rip the petrol engine out and put an electric one in.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
I think those will be the only ICE cars with any value of the collector's items, People are always going to want a Jaguar E-Type because you can just stare at it for hours. Well, I could. Don't know about you.
Well, they look a bit like penises to me. But, not that there's anything wrong with that.
I've heard you spend days looking at penises.
That was my old job, collecting pig sperm. It's completely different. Anyway, back to electric cars. Please ask me a question not related to penises.
Okay. So, Ronald, feed-in tariffs are, can be wildly different in different states or even different retailers. How does the feed-in tariff affect how much you pay to fuel your electric car?
Oh, all right. Let's just pretend that you charge your car completely from your rooftop solar. Maybe not realistic, but it can be done. Yeah. So if you look at this graph, it shows what you pay if you 100% charge your car from your rooftop solar, depending on your feed-in tariff. Now, in red, I've got the average annual cost of petrol at $1.50 for the average passenger car on the road now. $2,330. Not cheap, but at a 4-cent feed-in tariff, which is what you'll be paying in Western Australia, what you'll be getting, $93. Next to nothing. If you charge your car fully before 3 a.m. in Western Australia, it'll be $70 a year to run your car. If you've got a more typical solar feed-in tariff of 10 cents, then you're looking at $233 a year to power your electric car. And if you're lucky enough to get a 14-cent feed-in tariff, be hard to get that these days, but maybe next year, $327. It's a small fraction of the cost of petrol.
You live in WA, you can spend $93 a year on fuel for your car.
Yeah, exactly. Driving 14,000 kilometres per year.
So how would you like to sum up, Ronald? This is a SQTV episode about electric cars. What's Ronald, a man who's very hard to believe the hype. Mm-hmm. What's the deal with electric cars?
I am very excited about electric cars, and you have to adjust that because it's very hard for anything to excite my ancient blackened heart. So this is a very positive sign. Electric cars, they're the future. If you're a rev head, they provide better performance. If you're worried about your wallet, they will provide low-cost operation for many years in the future. And soon, the purchase price will gradually fall and be competitive with most petrol-powered cars. So the future value of petrol cars, it's not going to be high.
So there you have it. Ronald Brackles, possibly Australia's most sceptical man, most hard to convince, the blackest heart, and even he's getting excited about electric cars. I think there's something in this electric car thing.
Definitely.